Hello everybody, my name is Ben Brady and I am the 3D Printing Texan. This is a video tutorial for DesignSpark Mechanical. And let me get some things squared away here so we can get ready to go. So this tutorial is about creating threads. Now there are a number of tutorials that have been put out by DesignSpark and by other people who talk about creating threads in DesignSpark. But here's the problem. They only give you one side. So there's tutorials that teach you how to build the male side, and there's tutorials that teach you how to build the female side, but there's no tutorial that teaches you how to put both of them together so that they mate. So this tutorial is going to show you how to do that, because there's not been any cohesive tutorial until now. So this is a little project that I'm making. It's a spool holder for my Creality machines, and this will accommodate a wider spool than a normal spool, because I use some 2.3 kilogram spools, and they go on like so. Now this is a 5-pound spool of filament, 2.3 kilograms. And so I needed a way to anchor this onto a Creality spool holder. And of course, now the problem was, couldn't find out what the pitch of the Creality nut is. Here's the nut for the spool holder. So I couldn't get that information anywhere. And I looked at it and I couldn't quite get it, and I didn't have a screw gauge or a thread gauge. I need to pick one of those up. And so I just kind of fussed around with it for hours and hours. I worked on it for like 10 hours. And I made little test prints, and I couldn't get it right. So then finally I said, you know, this is kind of crazy. There's got to be a way to figure out how to do a bolt and a nut so that I could screw them together. So I ended up finally figuring out how to do it, and I'm going to show you how. Now, thanks to Jim Taylor and his excellent tutorial on threads, because without some of the knowledge that he has, that he imparted in his tutorial, I would not have been successful. So Jim, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's jump into the tutorial. Now, this is my project here for the Creality spool holder, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to start from scratch here, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So we're going to just go ahead and start a new design. And so here's our plane. And we're going to go ahead and face the plane with a V on the keyboard. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw a circle that is 15 millimeters in diameter. So there's our circle. And then we're going to put a head on the circle, because we're going to make a bolt first. And so we're going to go ahead and grab the center again, but we're going to go to the polygon tool up here. And we're going to go to the polygon, and then we're going to go ahead and go back here to the center of our circle, and we're going to pull up a polygon. And let's make this polygon 25. So now we have a 15 millimeter circle with a 25 millimeter polygon. And so let's go to our design mode, and we're going to pull up, we're going to make this bolt 30 millimeters tall, and we're going to make the head 10 millimeters. Or let's make it, yeah, let's make it 10. So there we have 10 millimeter head, 20 millimeters are on the from the head to the top of the bolt. All right, now how do we make threads on the bolt? All right, so now we created the head on the bolt this way for a reason. So what we can do is we can select the face of the head and do a do a K on the keyboard to put us into sketch mode, and then come up with we're going to go ahead and pan this around a little bit so you can see, and then we're going to go here to the move plane, move the grid button, and we're going to move the grid. We're going to turn the grid just slightly here so we can get at the control that we need. So we're going to click here on the forward facing arrow for the move control, and we're going to say up to, and we're going to move it up to the center axis of the cylinder that makes the bolt. So that's going to cut the bolt in half, directly in half, and that's what we want. Now let's go back here and face it again, and we can go ahead and go, whoops, back into the the half section of the bolt. Now, the first thing we have to do is we have to create a tool that we're going to use to make the thread. Now, we're going to zoom in here a bit, and we're going to zoom way in here a bit so you can see what's going on. Whoops. I just need to pan over a little bit. And we're going to start working with this edge. And so one of the things that we want to do, we're going to go ahead and select our line tool, and we're going to turn off snap to grid over here on the left. We're going to turn that off because we don't want to snap to grid. We're working with some close tolerances and we need to be fairly exact. So now we can make whatever arbitrary size thread we want. We don't have to follow some kind of prescribed diameter or pitch. We can make whatever pitch and whatever diameter thread we want, okay? As long as we make it to match, that's fine. Now, if we have to match something, you can look up thread pitches on the internet for particular size screws or nuts or bolts or whatever. But in this case, I just need a bolt and a nut that will mate together. Okay. So we're going to create a tool, and we're going to start right here at this corner of the bolt. This is the top edge of the bolt. And so we're going to take our line tool and we're going to go up at 90 degrees, and let's go up 2 millimeters. And then we're going to go over 2 millimeters. We're going to make a square. And we're going to come down 2 millimeters. And we're going to come back over 2 millimeters. So there's our square. Now, we just use the square because it's going to be a little handy. Okay? Now, the next thing we need, we're going to make this tool to cut into the bolt to make the thread. So we need an angle And we're going to go ahead and change the angle here in a second, but we just need a line long enough to manipulate the angle. So in this case right now we get a line that's 2.7 millimeters, and we're just going to go ahead and tab to the angle, and we're going to go to 45-degree angle. So now the line is 45 degrees. That's all we need, okay? And then we're going to come down here to the corner, and we're going to create another line, and we're going to tab to the angle, and we're going to create that to be another 45 degrees. So now we have an intersection, and that's all we need. Now, I have a bug flying around here. Now, what we need to do is we need to trim up some things, but the other thing that we need, let's go ahead and trim our extra lines here, that one and that one, so we can get rid of that. Now, let's draw a construction line, or we can actually draw a regular line, it doesn't matter. And we need a line going from there to there, just a little line to intersect to tell us how long that angle is. So in this case, we come back here and we can see that that line is exactly 1 millimeter long. Okay, great. Now, here's the part that's tricky. We can't create a thread that just comes to a point like this. It won't work. It just won't work. The tolerances in 3D printing won't allow it to work because the tolerances aren't exact enough. You would have to have a very dialed in printer to make this work. So in order to get around that, we have to figure out where we can fudge a little bit in terms of the thread. So the way we do that is we have to figure out, and thank you to Jim. Let's see, I'm looking for my calculator, and let's see, where the heck did I put it? Thought I had it on the desktop. Let me find it real quick, because we definitely want to use the calculator. So I'll go into Windows, Accessories, Calculator, and let's just go ahead and drag our calculator over here, and we should be able to see that. Can we see the calculator? No, we can't see the calculator. Okay. So I'm going to do the calculations on the calculator, and I'll just tell you what they are. So we have a line here that is 1 millimeter across from the edge of the square to the end of the tool that's going to cut the thread. We need to take 1/6 of that line. Need to find out 1/6 of that line. So we're going to say 1 and divided by, whoops, where's my divide symbol on my calculator? 1 divided by 6 is 0.1666. So what we need is we need a line, and we can go ahead and kill this line now. We don't need that. We're going to go to a construction line, and we're going to draw a construction line, and we're going to make that line 0.1666. So that's going to give us the line. Oops. Control Z there. Let's try this again. (0.1666) tab, and it's going to round it up to 667. That's fine because it's 6666666 all the way over. So this gives us a line that we can use as a guide to know where to chop off that point so that the thread will work. So in this case, we're going to go back to our line tool, and we're going to find out where that line intersects with the end of the construction line, and we're going to draw a line straight up. So that's where we got. Now, Chico, be quiet. So now we have the dimensions of our tool, and so now we can just clean up the tool to make it work. So we're going to go over here to the kill the lines that we don't need, and we're going to get rid of that line. So now we have a tool, and we can we're going to use this tool in just a minute. Now, this is one of the key elements that you need to know in order to make a bolt and a nut. Okay? Once you get this, we're back in design mode now, in 3D mode, pull mode, and we need, we're gonna call this, we're gonna rename this and call it a tool, and we are going to, so we've got it highlighted, we've got it selected, we are going to copy this tool. So we're going to copy, and then we're going to paste, and that's going to create a second tool, and we're going to hit move tool, and we're going to move this copy over slightly because we're going to use that later. Now, the reason we're going to use it later is, A, we don't want to spend the time recreating the tool when we make the nut. So, and we want to make sure that we have the correct dimensions for both tools so that the nut and the bolt will match. Okay? Now, the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this tool and we're going to move it. We're going to spin it 180 degrees. Because we needed 180 degrees for the nut. So there we have tool 1 and tool 2. So we're going to go ahead and rename those. Tool 1 and tool 2. All right. Now we're in move mode right now. We're going to go to pull mode, and we're going to select this tool. Now, it's very important that you follow these steps in order to make the thread correct. First, you need to tell it you're going to cut, because if you don't, it's going to make a weird looking thread on the bolt. So we want to cut a thread into the bolt, which means we're going to remove material from the bolt. I'm going to move that up a little bit so you can see what's going on. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select the revolve tool, and we're going to select the axis that we want the tool to revolve around. In this case, it's going to be the axis that goes through the center of the bolt. And then down here on the left, we're going to say revolve helix, because we want to make a thread that's a spiral around the bolt. So we resolve helix, and we want a right-handed helix for right-handed thread. All right, now if you see down here we have some entry fields. It's asking us for the height, and it's asking us for the pitch, and it's also asking us for a taper angle. I haven't quite worked out the taper angle yet. I will. I'm just not sure what it is, and it doesn't give us a pop-up with any kind of information, but I'll find out what it is. I think it has something to do with the taper on the thread as it goes to the top of the bottom. So right now I've got it set to 0. So we need to know how high to make the thread. Now we're starting at the top of the bolt, and we need to go down. So this is gonna be a negative number because we're gonna go down in our direction. So we're gonna say minus 20 because our bolt is 20 millimeters long. And then we're gonna say the pitch is 2 millimeters. Now, this pitch number, if you're creating a thread in a model that all you have to do is match the nut for that model, you don't have to match something that's real world, you can make that pitch number whatever you want, okay? But if you need to match something else that's real world, then you'll need to look up the pitch to make sure that you have the correct pitch. So now you may be able to see here in the video, there are little lines that indicate how the thread is going to be built. Now we started up here at the top because we have to taper the thread around the bolt in order to screw the nut on. Now, at this point we can say do a full pull on the tool, and it's going to cut the thread. You see down here our cut is turned on. It's going to cut the thread into the bolt for 20 millimeters tall. So there it goes. Now, that's one side of the equation. So now we have a bolt 20 millimeters tall, and I think that that angle has to do with this piece right here, because if you notice, it stops the thread there. I probably could have told it more than 20 millimeters. Matter of fact, let's try that. Let's go ahead and Control Z, and we've got the resolve, we've got the helix, and so now we're going to say the height is minus 21 with 2 millimeters, and there's our pitch. Now let's go ahead and oops. Now here's what I meant. I didn't do a cut, and so it added the material for the tool. So let's Control Z that and hit cut, and that's a good thing that I showed you that, because it could drive you nuts if you don't do that. So there's 20 millimeters, 2 millimeters, and now we'll go ahead and do the full pull, and now it's going to cut into the bolt. Now let's see what happened down here at the bottom. Okay, now we see it cut into the bolt head, and that's fine. That's okay. We want to be able to go all the way, screw the nut all the way onto the bolt and not be stopped. So, I mean, you could probably go 20.5, and get to the same thing. All right, so now we got to do the nut. Let's find our tool, and let's find our face to sketch on. So there's, actually, let's go ahead and use the surface of the tool to do that. So we'll select the tool, go KV. Now we have our sketch, and now we're going to create a nut that has a 15 millimeter inner diameter, and so let's go, we're going to create a circle that's 15 millimeters, and we're going to create a polygon that will fit the wrench, and we're going to call that 25 millimeters. And we're going to go back here to design mode, and we're going to pull this up, And let's make this 10 millimeters. It's a nut. And we'll go ahead and kill the hole. And then we can label this nut. Well, let's might as well label the other bolt. So there's the nut. We're going to rotate the nut. We're going to rotate him 90 degrees to match the tool. Now, we can also move the nut to correspond with the position of the tool. So let's go down slightly, and we can fine-tune the position of the nut. We're going to use this edge, and whoop, let's see, what did we get there? Let's use this edge, and we're going to say, we're going to select that and say up to, and we're going to say the bottom line of our tool that we're going to cut the thread with. Okay, and then we're going to select the tool, and we're going to move the tool up to we'll start here at the center, and then we're going to move this edge right here up to oops. Alright, so we're going to have to do this the hard way. We're going to select that, and we're going to say come down here, and we're going to say move this edge up to here. Now where are we? And we're going to say move the tool itself up to the axis. So now what we have, if we go here and we go into sketch mode, we have the tool is going to cut into the nut starting right there at that edge. Okay, so now we can go back to the pull mode, and we're going to say revolve, and we're going to say around this axis, and we're going to say revolve around the helix, right-handed thread, and now we have 10 millimeters for the nut, so we're going to say 11 millimeters for the thread, just to make sure we go all the way through. Once again, we're going down, so we're going to say negative 11 with a 2 millimeter pitch. And we're going to go ahead, oops, and then what we didn't do is cut. So we're going to say negative 11 millimeters, 2 millimeter pitch, cut, and now why are we not getting what we need to get? Let's see if we can change direction. There we go. So we just changed the direction. We want to make sure we do the cut. Negative 11, 2 millimeters, I don't know why we're getting this. Now the last time I did this, I did it on the other side of the nut. So it could be a right-handed, left-handed thing here. Let's see. So we're going to say negative 11. Let's go 11. Maybe I'm getting it confused here. Need to get back to our tool. Cut 11. And okay, so now we see that the threads are going down into the nut. So it was confused between up and down. So we're going to do full pull. And there it goes. It's done. So now there's our nut. And now the nut and the bolt have the same threads and they will match. And that is how you do it. So I hope this helps you out. It's been an interesting project to figure this out, but now you know how to create a bolt and a nut, and the key is to duplicate the tool once you have created the tool that's going to cut the threads in both pieces. Okay? And you can't make the thread come to a point, because the printer won't print it right. I've tried. It won't work. So, I am Ben Brady, the 3D Printing Texan. Have a great day. Hope you learned something.